Good YouTube, back with another video, man. We've been gone for a while, but we're gonna try and get back into the swing of things. And I want to kick it off with an anime I just recently watched that I didn't get a chance to watch when the first season aired. But I loved the video game growing up, and that's gonna be Devil May Cry. So going into the anime, I had heard people didn't really like Devil May Cry season one, and I was like, I never really gave it a chance. So, but then I saw that season two was coming out, so I was like, well, it's probably the best time to binge it and get into it, whatnot. So, what did I do? I binged it, and I will say though that I think season one is overhated. Just actually, both seasons are overhated, I should say. However, I do agree that if you are a strict fan of like the actual like games and whatnot, then I can see your nitpicks and your concerns about it. But all in all, I still think that the actual anime, like if you were to show this to some random person that doesn't know anything about the series and they watched Devil May Cry, they'd be like, "Oh, this is a solid anime, right? It's solid, right?" So just starting at season one, because I'm just going to tackle both seasons. Season one, for the Devil May Cry fans, Dante is a more like DMC3, right? Um, which is makes sense, right? Because it's like the chronological order of like when it was. It's kind of funny that the games came out like that. The third one was actually actually first chronologically, but nevertheless, Dante is very like goofy and like playful, and he's just not as serious and whatnot. And the other downside of that is they make him very dumb, kind of like he's kind of just like a hothead, not a hothead, but a showboat. But he's not really that smart. Which I get for like the Devil May Cry fans. Like it's kind of weird because like he's not like that in any of the games. Like he might be a little bit more playful, more jokes, but a lot of the things in the first season, he's like outsmarted by Lady multiple times. He's outsmarted by other opponents, and it's just like you're like, what's going on, bro? Um, but like I do feel like they could have improved his character, and in season two, it doesn't really change that much. He becomes a little less goofy, a little bit more serious, but he still doesn't have that same like. Basically, I mean, it's gonna be overstated, but the aura, like he doesn't have any aura, right? So, but then now we cut over to who the other character is in season one. That's the main focal point is Lady. Now, just go and get this out the way. Lady feels more like the main character of season one than Dante does. Even though the whole plot of like the whole opening the demon realm and connect the two realms together, it's like centered around Dante's like amulet and whatnot. It still like feels like it's Lady's show, even though she's not supposed to be the main character. And I recently went back and looked at the games, just kind of freshen up a little bit, remember how it was. And Lady's not, she's not much of like, I mean, she's there, but her thing is really all about with her father, right? Whereas with this, like she has connections to the bunny, which the bunny I'm gonna touch on that, but I do think all in all, Lady is a good character, and she feels very impactful and strong. Like I feel more for her in the from the show than I did from the actual game, and that's kind of like just the game. She's just like there, right? She's just there. But with the anime, I feel like this is like feels like she's like the main character, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. You know what I'm saying? But it just feels like that. Um, so now getting into the bunny rabbit. Bunny rabbit, he was not really there till like I mean, he was there at the very beginning, but he didn't become like a focal point to like the midway point of the show. And but I still feel like he didn't have enough screen time. And once we got his backstory, the backstory episode, which was pretty much almost like wordless, like they did almost the entire episode with almost no real words, and I think that is beautiful because I feel like if a show is able to convey a message and like convey like everything without having to really use any words, I feel like that goes a long way. You know what I'm saying? So like it's like I felt a little emotion for like what was going on, and there was no words that need to be said, right? So I do think that's like that character was underutilized, and then to see the connection that he had with Lady and whatnot, it was like, damn, that really kind of hit hard. You know what I'm saying? And you felt bad for him, right? You kind of was rooting for him a little bit at the end, just me personally, but like I was like, shit, let the demons connect in. You know what I'm saying? Whatever happened, happened. You know what I'm saying? But all in all, that didn't obviously happen the way that he wanted to do. But he still caused anarchy and like kicked off the events of season 2, giving them like the little transporter to go in between the realms and whatnot. But all in all, season 1 was very. If I had to give season 1 a ranking, I'd say it's like a good 7 out of 10. Right? If you're a Devil May Cry fan, though, I can see this being below a 5. Definitely below a 5. Right? And so let's get into season 2. Season 2 is like they introduce Arius, and the crazy thing is, in season 1 at the very end, they show Arius there, so he's already established, but we don't really know him for real. And in season 2, he's just thrown into our face, more like as the prominent figure or whatnot. And as Devil May Cry fans, like you would know like who that is, right? But I feel like the show doesn't do a good enough job of introducing him and whatnot. So that kind of like misses the mark. I feel like for a new fan, like how I said, season 1 felt like a new fan kind of just jump in and they kind of understood what's going on. But with Arius, I didn't really feel that way. I was like, what's his deal? You know what I'm saying? Because like I've seen him and I know him via the games, but like he doesn't have that same like backstory. He doesn't have that same aura that like Mundus is given, or fucking Sparta. It's just like he's not really like I don't know anything about him really. If I was like a new fan watching, so I felt that was very bad. But he was really good. He was a good villain. Had a lot of aura and whatnot. I'm gonna say the words aura because that's just the easiest way to describe it. But all in all, he was still a solid villain. From what I say for Vergil is he's kind of like spot on from what he was in the games, right? Very stoic and kind of to himself, and wants to do things by himself and whatnot. But what I will say is that Vergil seems more incompetent. Like he like, and I get it. Like the whole point is he's like been tricked by Mundus, like his whole like upbringing and whatnot. But it still just didn't feel like the Vergil that you've seen in the games, right? And I think it's because they kind of intermingled multiple different games, like plot lines, because Mundus himself was like dealt with in Devil May Cry 1, and Arius was in Devil May Cry 2, so they kind of like overlapped it and whatnot. But all in all, though, I still think that season 2 was solid. I don't have too many. I have gripes and complaints. Like they still have Dante kind of stupid. Um, he still doesn't feel like the main character as much. Feels like more it's still Vergil and Lady. It's crazy that sounds, right? Because she had her whole thing with the vice president and whatnot, like as her dad figure and whatnot. And I feel like I don't know the guy's name, right? But he's a soldier, and he had the football symbol on his like his uniform, and he's the one that ended up shooting the president or whatever in the spoilers, I guess. But he shot the president, and I feel like that character had more like screen time or felt more impactful than Dante in a lot of things. And so I just feel like if you were a Dante fan, you got the short end of the stick, right? You didn't really get too much of Dante like really being who Dante is. So I can see how that like turned off a lot of people. Like I said, it didn't bother me too much. It was still like enjoyable. But the last big complaint I have though, and it's just like shows do this all the time, right? So it's kind of like if you've seen enough shows, you kind of understand what's going on. But sometimes it's just like, bro, that's too like obvious. It's too much of an issue, right? And that's when you have an OP character that's in the setting, that's right there in the environment, and they're doing nothing. And they're doing nothing strictly because of the plot. And what I'm referring to is Mundus. So at the very end of the season, Mundus sees Vergil like rebelling against him, right? He's already explained the whole situation to him, and Vergil's like, I'm still gonna kill you. Okay. Okay, instead of Mundus just saying, "All right, we done with you," whoosh, get him out of here. He's killed. He'd be able to kill him very quickly. You know what I'm saying? Vergil fights Dante, and Vergil and Dante are fighting right there, right in front. Literally, you can see Mundus's feet in the background. He's just looking at him fight, right? Which is like cool. Like let him squabble. You know what I'm saying? Let him squabble, whatnot. And then it's just like when the fight's over and Dante loses, he can see Vergil was trying to, get the sword and close the gap and whatnot. Mundus doesn't react until it's at the very last minute. He's like, "Oh no!" And it's just like, bro, that just he watched how they unfold. He can hear them saying they want to close the shit, and he does nothing until the last minute. Oh shit! Let me go try and stop this. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, what we doing? You know what I'm saying? But all in all, I will say season 1 was a lot better in my opinion. Um, just for a casual viewing purposes. Season 2 had more fights. It was a lot better for action. I will say that, you know. But all in all, if I had to judge the first 2 seasons and put them together, and they've already announced the third and final season. I don't know when it's going to come out, or I think they might have announced when it's coming. I know that the third is going to be the final one, but the first 2 seasons, if I had to say for a joint score, it ended up being like a 5 out of 10, bro. It's a pretty mid anime. It's the midest you can find, like literally mid. It's not terrible, but it ain't good. And if you're a Devil May Cry fan, it is terrible. So that's the downside about it. But let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Appreciate y'all checking out. Peace.